I'm here at the National Zoo, and if you're thinking about coming here on a Washington, D.C. trip, I've got some very important tips for you. The National Zoo is one of the most popular Smithsonian Institution sites in Washington, D.C. And for good reason. It's a great zoo, but before you go, it's important to set the correct expectations. The official name of this place is the Smithsonian National Zoological Park. And don't be confused by the word national, because this is not the biggest zoo in the country. If you're looking for really big zoos, you'll want to check out the ones in places like Omaha, Columbus, San Diego, and New York City. The vibe at the National Zoo is much closer to a small neighborhood zoo than it is to a big theme park like Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now, what makes our zoo unique is that it is the only zoo in the US that both has giant pandas and is completely free. In 2022, there are actually only 3 zoos in the United States that have giant pandas. But we'll talk more about pandas in a bit. During COVID, the zoo did start requiring advance tickets. The tickets are free, but you do need to go online and get them before your visit. So, depending how far in the future you're watching this, tickets may or may not still be required. Make sure to double check the official zoo website and confirm. Now, let's talk about transportation for getting to the zoo. For most visitors, the best way to get to the zoo is on Metro. The main zoo entrance is on Connecticut Avenue Northwest, approximately equidistant between the Woodley Park and Cleveland Park Metro stations. However, this is an important hack. The walk from the Cleveland Park station is mostly flat, while the walk from the Woodley Park station is uphill. So when you're going to the zoo, use Cleveland Park. And when you're going back from the zoo, use Woodley Park. When you get off at the Cleveland Park station, go up the escalator and look for the small National Zoo sign that points you to turn right. Then it's basically a straight shot down Connecticut Avenue to the zoo entrance. It's possible to drive to the zoo, but for most visitors, not advisable. In 2022, parking at the zoo costs $30 per car, and space is extremely limited. If you need to drive to the zoo, make sure you go on the zoo website and buy a parking pass in advance. Do not attempt to drive to the zoo if you don't already have that parking pass. That is a recipe for a not very good time. Of course, you could always take a cab or an Uber to the zoo. Or if you're staying at a hotel nearby, you could walk. There is one hotel on my recommended hotels guide within walking distance of the zoo. So head on over to triphacksdc.com/hotels to find out which one. By the way, I've been so excited to talk about the zoo, I haven't even introduced myself yet. If you're new to this channel, my name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours. On this channel, I share my best tips, tricks, and travel hacks for exploring Washington, D.C. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future Washington, D.C. travel videos. And if you've ever been to the National Zoo, leave a comment and let me know how you liked it and what your favorite animal is. Or if you haven't been before, which animal you would be most excited to see. Okay, now let's talk about food at the zoo. The good news is you will be able to find food. The not so good news is this is not going to be any kind of gourmet dining experience. Zoo food is similar to what you could expect at a place like Six Flags or another theme park, with prices that might match those places. Inside the zoo is a big Sbarro pizza, an Elevation burger, and little carts scattered around that sell things like ice cream, gelato, and other snacks. There are also a lot of vending machines with water, soda, and ice cream. The trip hack here is that you are allowed to bring in food from the outside, so you can pack your own or pick something up along the way. There are some good restaurants and decent takeout spots on Connecticut Avenue near the Cleveland Park Metro station. And a really good bakery on Connecticut Avenue directly across from the main gate. Or if you don't want to eat inside the zoo at all, there are plenty of restaurants nearby. I also recently learned a very important beverage tip from my friend Allie, who is a frequent zoo visitor. You might remember Allie from our What to Pack for DC video. She reminded me that if you want coffee, you have to bring your own. So if you are a coffee drinker, make sure to plan in a stop at the Starbucks across the street so you can get your coffee before you go in. Now, let's run through a bunch of other practical tips and trip hacks for your visit to the zoo. First, the zoo has different hours than the other Smithsonian sites. It opens early and closes early. So if you're the kind of traveler who likes to get an early start to the day, this would be a great place to come first thing in the morning. Final admission is usually 1 hour before the posted closing time. Next, make sure to check the zoo rules before you arrive. Even though much of it is outdoors, smoking is not allowed anywhere inside the zoo. Pets are not allowed either. Strollers and wheelchairs are permitted, but bicycles, skateboards, scooters, and other wheeled devices are not. If you bring a stroller, always leave it in a designated stroller parking area, and don't just abandon it in any random spot. And never leave any money, wallet, or any other valuable unattended in a stroller. Always bring your valuables with you. Next, understand that there is no guarantee that any animal will be visible or active when you visit. Animals at the zoo come from all over the world. Some of them prefer colder weather and are more active in the winter, and some of them prefer hotter weather and love the summer. Some won't come out when it rains, and others love the precipitation. And even if you do see an animal, it may just be snoozing away, which I feel like is always what the pandas are doing when I go to the zoo. Additionally, you must understand that the zoo is built on a hill. And while Washington, D.C. might not be famously hilly like San Francisco or Pittsburgh, it's still hilly here, which means all your standard D.C. travel advice applies. Wear comfortable shoes, stay hydrated, and dress for the weather. But it's also important to pace yourself so you don't use up all your energy going down the hill and then have none left to get back. One thing you might consider is that the zoo is basically a downhill walk from the main entrance on Connecticut Avenue to the secondary entrance in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. So if you don't think you can make it all the way back up the hill, you can plan to have an Uber pick you up here at this intersection, Harvard Street and Adams Mill Road. If you're visiting in the summer, use the misters that are scattered around the zoo. They are really popular for the kids, but if you're an adult and you need the relief, don't be ashamed to pop in there once the kids are done. And lastly, have a strategy for your visit to the zoo. If you're visiting with kids, their ages will dictate what they might like. If you have very young children or toddlers, they'll probably love the kids' farm, where they can interact with alpacas, goats, and donkeys. If you have older kids, they might get a kick out of the orangutans swinging above the zoo. Or maybe they'll be into the red pandas, especially now that the new Pixar movie is out. Planning ahead is also a good way to make sure you don't accidentally miss anything that's interesting. A lot of the indoor animal houses are very good, but sometimes they're kind of tucked away and not very obvious when you're walking past. And hey, I want to know from you. If you've been to the zoo before, which exhibits did you like the best? Or do you have any of your own zoo hacks to add? Leave a comment under the video and let me know. And if you're coming to DC and interested in signing up for a Trip Hacks DC guided tour, you can click or tap on the Capitol Dome on the left side of my head. That'll send you right over to triphacksdc.com where you can see all of the tours that we offer. Enjoy your trip.